Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with a very exciting video because I'm here with my first update for my Pan Those Eyeshadows. So this project was inspired and created by Alexandra or Alexi here on YouTube. I will leave her channel link below as always because of course she deserves credit for this project. But I've been doing this project for a year already, so this is going to be my second year of this project. So I'll also leave my playlist down below, and to make sure that you don't miss out on any updates for this project, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you in the family. But without further ado, I'm going to jump into the eyeshadows. So the first palette that I have is this one right here, which is my Dream St palette from ColourPop. I had the shade Mermaid Boy. When I first introduced the shade, this was completely new. I only swatched, I believe. I haven't used it at all. But I'm going to show you where I am today. So as you can see right there, I did manage to hit pan on this shade, which is super exciting. I actually only hit pan on this a few days ago, but I'm so happy that I managed to do so. When we were about at the middle of the month, I definitely didn't think that I would be able to hit pan on it because I mainly use this as kind of an accent shade or just as an all-over lid shade. I will include some looks at the end so you can know what I'm talking about. But then what I started doing was I started using this as a liner, and that's how I actually managed to hit pan on it. Because before, when I used this shade, it was too intense to use for everyday work, so using it as a liner kind of enabled me to use it every single day, and that's how I hit pan on it. So this shade I used 19 times before I hit pan, and then since then I've used it an additional 2 times, so in total 21 uses. I'm really happy to have that rolled out. I actually really liked it, and I was a bit terrified about this shade when I first rolled it in because I don't really use blue shades that often, especially not when they're this dark, because I'm not much of a smoky eye person. But I found a lot of a way to use this, and I actually started to fall in love with it, so I definitely feel like I'm going to reach for these types of shades more often. But that is the first palette that I'm going to roll out of this project, and yeah, I'm really excited to start this year with a pan. Next up we have another ColourPop palette, and this one is the She palette, and in here I have the shade Dear. So again, when I first rolled this shade in, it was basically new. I don't even think I swatched it, and I never used this shade on my eyes. Since then I've used it 20 times, and I'm going to show you where I am today. So that is the shade right there. As you can see, there is a slight dip, but it's not really much. And I use this as a crease shade mainly. So I already used this 20 times, and comparing it to the Mermaid Boy shade from Dream St, I used that 19 times before it pans. So that just shows the difference between mattes and shimmers. But I am happy that the dip is starting to form. However, I think this will definitely be in for at least obviously 1 more month or even 2. As I said, I've mainly used this shade as a crease shade. I have used it in the outer corners a few times, but it's kind of like a warm, rosy color, so it wasn't something that I wanted to reach for every single day, but I still managed to get 20 use out of it, which I think is really good. I definitely stopped kind of using it that much at the end of the month because I focus more on that kind of blue shade as a liner, and I didn't want to have too many colors on my eyes at the same time, especially when I was at work, so I stopped reaching for this that much at the end of the month. But I'm still really happy with my progress, and hopefully I will be able to get more of a significant dip in this for next update. So next up we have a shade that wasn't in the palette, and that is my Super Shock shadow from ColourPop in the shade Wattles. So this one I've used a few times when I first rolled it in, so I'm going to insert a picture where I was. And this, as you can see, is where I am today. So this is another shade that I managed to pan on, which is amazing. I'm really happy that I managed to do so. Usually when I use this kind of Super Shock shadows in different projects, my goal is always to wear them down evenly. And because of that, I try to swirl my brush around the pan kind of evenly, but obviously there is still kind of a little dip in the middle. I'm really happy that I managed to pan on another shade. This one I used 20 times before I pan on it, and since then I've used it an additional 1 time. So Wattles is one of ColourPop's Satin shades, and this was beautiful because you could both use it as a crease shade, but you can also use it all over the lid. So on kind of low makeup days, I use this all over the lid and blend it up in my crease. And other days I can incorporate this into my looks just using as a crease shade. So I was really happy to roll this in, and I kind of expected to hit pan on this since it is a Super Shock shadow, and I tend to go through this quite quickly. Next up we have my Element of Surprise palette, again from ColourPop. It's a lot of ColourPop in this project currently. And from here I have the shade Silk Street, and I'm going to insert the picture of where I was. And as you can see, this is where I am today. So Again, there is a little bit of a dip in it. I'm definitely not near pan yet, but I have used this quite a few times, mainly to deepen up my outer corner and crease. And in total, I've used this 14 times so far. So definitely not the most out of the shades, but I still think like that is a kind of a decent amount, especially for being such a dark shade and also color. I feel like this shade is really beautiful though, and I definitely love wearing it. I am wearing it on my outer corners today, and let me just show you kind of my eye look, because I can show you like a little bit what I do with the Dream St shade as well. So I'll zoom you guys in a little bit, so hopefully you'll be able to see, but this is my eye look today. And what I did is I used a shade that I haven't shown you yet in my crease, and then I used the Silk Street shade in my outer corners, as you may be able to see there, the purple. And hopefully you can see the liner is the Dream St shade in Mermaid Boy. So that's kind of how I've been using the shade. Again, it is another one that will be rolling, but I'm hoping to get a really good dip in this for next update, or maybe even hit pan. And the final shade that I have comes from my Urban Decay Naked Ultimate Basics palette. And the shade that I had was the shade Faith, and I'm going to insert a picture of where I was. Again, this is a shade that I had never really used before, but I'm going to show you where I am today. So this is Faith right here, so hopefully you'll be able to see. There is a tiny bit of a dip, but not really significant at all. I think you guys will be able to see it there maybe. So this was a shade that I didn't really use much because I had the Wattles shade in as well. I focused on that mainly first, and then once I hit pan on Wattles, I kind of moved on and started using this one. So this shade is what I have in my crease today, and it's been my go-to crease shade ever since. So thus far I've used this 13 times, and it is something that I'm really hoping to get more use out of for next update, because hopefully, unless I get something else that is like a transition shade, this will be my main focus. So with those, we have 3 shades rolling, so I'm just going to go ahead and swatch those 3 before we roll into new shades. So these 3 are the shades that I have currently. We have the shade from the She palette, we have the one from Element of Surprise, as well as the Urban Decay Ultimate Naked Basics palette. So I currently have 454 eyeshadows, so I'm just going to go ahead and randomize 2 new shades. The first one will be number 330. So the first shade comes from my Rose Gold mini palette from I Heart Revolution, and it is the first shade in the palette, so let's just go ahead and see which shade it is. So the first shade in the palette is this one right here. I'm holding it upside down, so it is number 1 right here. So this is like a kind of purpley pink shade. I'm just gonna go ahead and swatch it for you. So there you have the shade right there. I would say it's kind of like a pinky champagne-y, like rose gold shade. It's stunning, and I definitely feel like I will be able to work this in quite easily. And then the final shade we have will be number 398. So 398 comes from my C palette, or one of my C palettes, and the shade is one from MAC, and that is Satin Taupe right there. So I've taken it out of the palette, and this is what it looks like. Let me go ahead and swatch it for you as well. So I went ahead and I swatched it right there, and as you can see, it is like a really nice taupey shade. It's definitely a little bit darker than the previous shade, but I definitely feel like these two complements my color palette. So that will be my color theme for the next update. I don't really feel like I could be any happier. I got 2 shimmers, which is really good because I only had matte ins from last time. I feel like this kind of rose gold shade will be able to work in beautifully in my everyday kind of makeup looks, and I even think like this taupe shade will be able to do that as well. But I have that to kind of bring some darkness in, as well as switch up the lid shade. And then yeah, like I said, I didn't get any more transition shades, which is amazing because that means I can focus on the Faith shade every single day and kind of combine it with the other 2 mattes. So before I close off this video, I have my looks to share with of the month. So I'm just going to scooch over to the side so I can pop them up right here. And I have 3 looks to share with you today. And the first one right here is one that I've used when I filmed, and I really love how this turned out. And it's more kind of like an oil slick inspired look. And in this look I used Wattles as my base crease shade, and then I followed up by using the kind of rosy deer shade from the She palette kind of in my crease as well, used to kind of give it more of a rosy tone. I then put the Dream St shade Mermaid Boy all over my lid. And then I decided to deepen up the outer corner with the dark purple shade from the Elemental Surprise palette in Silk Street, just to kind of give it an overall realistic look. So in this look I basically used every single shade apart from the Fave shade, but I thought that overlapping that with the Wattles shade would be a bit overkill. So yeah, I really loved how this turned out. The second shade is more of an everyday look. It's something that I wore to work, and in here I did something similar apart from, instead of using the Mermaid Boy shade, I decided to use a shade from my Pan Those palette, which is just a shimmery kind of light goldy champagne shade. But then again I used Wattles in the crease and then that purple Silk Street shade in my outer corner. And I can't remember if I used Deer in this look. I think I did, but I've done this look several times this month, and sometimes I did use Deer and sometimes I didn't, so yeah, that's just how I decided to do it. Then the last look that I have is one of my favorite looks that I created. I really loved how this turned out, and I did have this on in a few videos that I filmed. And in here I used, again, Wattles in my crease. I used the Deer shade, which is the She palette shade, again to kind of give it a more of a rosy tone. And I believe that I put a tiny bit of the dark purple shade from Elemental Surprise again in the outer corner, but kind of blending it more up in the crease. And then what I decided to do is I used the blue shade from Dream St in my outer corners, kind of to deepen up the look, rather than using it all over the lid. And then I topped it up with the same kind of shimmery champagne gold shade from my Pan Those palette on the inner half of my lids, and I just loved how this turned out. I should have taken pictures of the look that I'm wearing today, where I used the Mermaid Boy shade as a liner, but I just completely forgot to do so, but I showed you before, and I did this look a few times as well. But that, you guys, was all for this update. I really hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you're excited for this project. I'm so excited to see what I'm able to do this year. But if you did like the video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you are new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you in the family. Otherwise, I'm hoping you're having an amazing day, and I will talk to you in my next video. Bye guys.